Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 6. This week, we're going to be getting into chapter 6, understanding relationships between two variables. It looks like a real math heavy chapter, and there are some math concepts, but I want to take a moment to reset your expectations and manage them so you can get through this without a lot of frustration. Chapter 6 is not so much about the math, it's about understanding what these statistical relationships mean. We're going to talk about some terms like correlation, regression, which are tools to look at the relationship between two variables. The focus should not be on the formulas, it should be more on the meanings and in the interpretation of what these things mean. So let's start with an example about correlation. There is a strong correlation between ice cream sales and drowning deaths. They both increase at the same time. So does not eating ice cream um, or eating ice cream, I should say, actually cause drowning? No, of course not. But what does happen is if there's hot weather, it can cause people to both do tubing, rafting, more water activities, and eat more ice cream. But it doesn't mean that ice cream is actually causing the increase in drowning deaths. So, again, and there are a lot of these things that we see, especially after COVID, during COVID, about the correlation between two variables. And some of you may be familiar with the saying, correlation is not causation. So let's talk back and get away from ice cream and talk about healthcare. Patients who are hospitalized have higher mortality rates than people who stay home. That's correlation. Do hospitals cause death? Well, you need to be very, very sick to be admitted to the hospital. And if you're sick, you're more likely to be hospitalized and therefore more likely to die. But the hospital is not causing the death, right? We'll get into some other concepts, Pearson's R squared, regression results, and what have you. But as you work your way through this chapter, ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one is, what direction is the relationship? And then look at how strong the relationship is. That gets back to the correlation example. And then ask yourself what else could be explaining it. So again, don't get stuck on the numbers and the calculations. There are a few in your book that I think help illustrate um, these concepts. I have a correlation example that you can work your way through how it's done in Excel. And I also have a study guide. So anyway, I hope you find all of this helpful and welcome to week 6. We're making our way through the term. And if you have any questions, please see me during office hours or use the link in my email and schedule an appointment to see me. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you online. Have a good week.